Naval action. The amazing Basic Lynx. I had a few requests from people on here asking about the Basic Lynx and, how good is it? How do you start out with it? What the hell do you do with it? Because it is everything other than amazing. But first I just wanted to kind of do a bit of a comparison between the Basic Lynx and player crafted lynx, or lynxes that you will fight in the open world that are controlled by AI. And the main difference off the bat is the kind of guns that you can carry. So yeah, you can carry 8 guns, same as the player crafted ones, but you can only have 4-pounders. Player crafted ones can have up to 6-pounder cannons or up to 18-pounder carronades, and that does make a big difference. I also wanted to show what happens when you build them out of different types of wood. The top one is made out of oak and the bottom one made out of fir. As you can see, the oak one has more hit points, and the bottom one made out of fir is a lot faster. Ignore the cramped and the strong rig. Those are just kind of rolls you get when you're crafting. Sometimes you get lucky and get a little bonus. I guess the other thing to point out here is the upgrade slots. Player crafted ones will always have 3 unlocks or more, whereas the basic one always seems to have a single unlock. So if you are planning to upgrade the lynx, you're very limited to what you can do with the basic one. Also, if you're not aware, once you've equipped cannon on your ship, if you hover over the cannon, it'll tell you how much gunpowder it uses. As you can see here, the 4-pounder uses 4 gunpowder per shot. So that's each gun you fire will use 4 gunpowder. So if you were to fire both sides of your ship, so that's 4 guns each side, that's 32 gunpowder you would use up, as well as obviously 8 cannonballs. But I just wanted to quickly go over that for people who are starting out in the game and not quite sure how the gunpowder and ammo system works. You can always hover over a cannon and see how much gunpowder it uses, and you can kind of calculate it from there. So we'll take a look at how much ammo and gunpowder to kind of take out. Now, I've not used the Basic Lynx myself, obviously to start with, and then I kind of moved on pretty fast from it, which everyone should do. You should not use this as one of your main ships. What I'm going to do here is take enough gunpowder to take, 80 shots. That's 10 broadsides. That's got to be enough, right? And then I'll also take some repairs, sail repairs, and medicine as well for the crew, because it's important to be able to repair yourself in the middle of combat, repair your sails if you need to, and heal your crew if you want to do that as well. Now, I would say only use the repairs and the heals if you need to, if you think you're going to sink, or if you think you're taking too much damage, because once you do finish the battle, you do a full repair for nothing. So, it's best not to use them unless you have to. I also wanted to point out, really, that this cost me about 4,000 reals in Nassau. So you've always got to take into account how much, your ammo is costing you when you fire a shot. Now, it's quite little, I suppose, in the Lynx, but starting out with is probably a big amount of money. So let's get out and get into some fights, I think. I also wanted to point out this cutter I have targeted with the skull and crossbones is an elite AI. Do not attack these with the starting ship. It'll be your death. They cheat. There's nothing else to it. It's actually amazing. The first ship I came across other than that elite is a trader's Lynx. So I get to show you what it's like actually fighting a weaker ship than you. And this never really happens in the Basic Lynx. So when you're tagging an enemy, it is important to get a good position as well. Usually just behind them with the wind behind you. So you haven't got to try and kind of maneuver into the wind to tag them or anything like that. And as long as you're around about this distance, it should be okay. The closer you get, the server can get a bit funny. If it's kind of out of sync, you might just appear in a random place. It's very important when fighting traders to get a good tag and get as close as possible. I was a bit further than I wanted to be on this one, because the main thing with the traders is they actually run away from the fight. So they'll try and escape instead of fighting you. So now I need to try and catch him. But luckily the traders are actually slower, usually slower anyway, than the combat variants. It depends how you build the combat ship. You can have big, heavy, tanky ones that are slower. But if you build a fast combat ship, you're going to always be faster than a trader ship, even the fastest built traders. The map is actually a very useful tool, especially if you're chasing someone. It can give you an idea if you're catching them or not. It can show you the details of the ship, if they've taken any damage, how much crew they got, and so on. So don't forget to use this, guys. You just press M to get it up, and you can also control your fleet from the map as well. I've gotten close enough now that I'm going to start taking some pot shots. You see the timer at the top? When that reaches 0, you can actually escape. But every time you hit him, it'll reset it back to 2 minutes. I think it's 2 minutes anyway. So it's important when you're fighting the trader, or players in fact, that you do this to get some hits on them. Even if you're doing very little damage at this range. I've had to boost the brightness in the video here a tiny bit because it turned night, and in the recordings it's really dark. So I wanted to boost it a bit so we could see what was going on. So we'll tag him again here. I don't want him getting a chance to escape. As you can see, my time is nearly out, so his is going to be similar. And what I'm going to do is actually board this guy, because this is the one time where a basic lynx can be used for boarding, unless you spend the time to actually grape a ship down. You can actually kill crew with normal cannons. You just got to aim kind of just above the deck a tiny bit, and you'll get some crew kills. So I'm going to try and do that, get his crew down a tiny bit, basically to give myself a better chance. And the reason I say that is because if you make a mistake during the boarding action and you lose a lot more crew than him, it could turn the tables pretty fast. So yeah, let's take a look at boarding in this. Like I said, the only time you ever want to board in a basic lynx. Any other time you want to board a ship, you need to make sure you've got a lot more crew. The easiest way to board another ship is by turning them into the wind. It'll slow them right down and give you a chance to board them, because your speed needs to be below 3.5. Another good way to slow yourself down is by pressing T to depower your sails. But let's board him here. I was not going to do a boarding tutorial, but you know, we'll have a quick one here. Now, I'm not an expert at boarding, so I didn't really want to do a tutorial. I would advise to go over to MoisTea's channel. He's really good at this kind of thing and does a really good boarding tutorial. But what you do is you open up with a brace, and then you watch what he's going to do. Now you see his musket damage is up at 4. That usually means he's going to attack. So what we'll do is a defend. And now brace again. And now you see his musket damage is 0. So that means he's either going to do a musket attack or he's going to defend. So what I'll do is I'll chance with an attack here. And there we go. I got more kills this time round. And I'll brace again. And his musket damage is 0 again. So he's probably going to defend. And what I should have done here is either musket volley or fire my deck guns. But I did an attack. And he got an extra kill than I did. And then you brace again. You check his musket damage. Oh, it's up to 3. So he's probably going to attack now. So if I do another defend. There we go. And this time I got an extra kill. Now that, you know, you follow this pattern basically until you win. Now, with the recent updates to the game, they're always going to kill about the same amount of crew as they start with. So you've got to make sure that you've got crew spare, basically. I always like to have at least, I guess, you know, double the amount of their crew, if I can. Because if something goes wrong when you're doing this, you could lose your ship, and lose your ship quite easily. So yeah, there we go. We've captured the T-Lynx. We'll see what he's got here. It's decent enough, you know. I would keep hold of the wood for crafting later on. And I would take the ship as well, because you can sell the ship in the auction for some money. I went back to port, sold the Lynx, sold the gold, stored the wood, and now I'm back out fighting again. This time I found a pickle to fight. Now a pickle is kind of the next step up from this Lynx, and probably a good step for you to go as your first ship after the Lynx. It's got more guns, and bigger guns as well, and it's got a slightly thicker hull, but not quite as fast as the Lynx. It also has more crew than the basic Lynx, so do not try and board it in this, okay? It is not a good idea. And whenever I start a fight, I always try and head straight towards them. I didn't have a good tag in this, as you can see I'm having to go through the wind. But always try and angle your ship, so when they fire at you, you've got a higher chance of your cannonballs bouncing. It matters a lot. You take less, obviously take less damage. If you're fighting a player, they'll waste ammo. So yeah, it's definitely a good start. And we'll take some shots at him now, just to start getting some damage on him. And let's see if I chose right, taking this amount of ammo. Is 80 rounds enough to take out a pickle? I'll let you guys guess. As you can see, you can use your sails as well. You can manually trim your sails using Q and E and Z and C to make yourself turn through the wind faster. It's very important you do this, especially in the bigger ships. The Lynxes and stuff like that are pretty forgiving, but when it comes to the big ships, you need to learn how to manually move your sails. If you don't, you'll get stuck in the wind and you'll just end up getting killed. The AI does do funny things in these smaller ships. He's going to ram me here, and if I was in a bigger ship, I would have knocked his bow spray off, and that would have been bad for him. His sails would have been down, and he wouldn't have been able to manoeuvre as well as he does. So we trade broadsides there, and we'll carry on doing this until I try and kill him. Basically, it's probably the best to try and concentrate on one side, especially with this ship, because you haven't got very many guns. And if you concentrate on one side, you'll have a better chance of killing him faster. So the fight's gone on a bit here, and he gets a lucky hit on me and catches me on fire. So this is important. You've got to make sure you have enough people trying to put the fire out, basically. So number 8, you've got to have that active, and it's usually best to take some people off your guns as well, so you have more people basically trying to put the fire out. And it's also kind of a good idea to put your sails down a bit, otherwise the fire can spread a lot faster. Luckily on the smaller boats it's not too bad, so I managed to put it out pretty fast. Yeah, you've got to be very careful with things like that. If you're in a bigger ship and you've got full sails, the fire can spread very fast if you don't have people on repairs. As you can see, I've got both sides down to about a quarter or just a bit higher. He's very good at manoeuvring, so I couldn't concentrate on just the one side. And a consequence of that is I've used all my ammo. I basically have none left now. So 80 rounds was not enough to take on, the pickle. Or anything bigger for that matter. And now I got no choice, I just have to run away. I can't board him because he's got so much more crew than me. And I guess that's my little gripe about the ammo and the gunpowder system they've added to this game. Unless you take a hell of a lot more than you need, which can be expensive, of course, if you do sink, then you can end up in situations like this, where I just wasted, 20 minutes of my life fighting this guy, and now I just have to run away. So yeah, what we'll do then is just leave here, and we'll jump into another quick fight, and show you when I actually win. So this time I've taken out over 200 ammo, and over 1,000 gunpowder with me. That should be more than enough. And luckily, I found a Lynx to fight. Bit more of a closer fight. Now he's got a slightly higher battle rate than me. But yeah, that's because they got better cannons, as we've seen earlier. I got a decent tag here, so I'm going to turn into him, make sure I angle my ship right, and this time I'm going to try and concentrate on one side. Hopefully I'll be able to sink this guy and not use all my ammo, or not take too much ammo and gunpowder out, get sunk myself and lose everything that I own in the game. As I mentioned before, it's important to have an angle, because as you see here, he'll fire at me, and his one bounced off, and the others missed. So he did absolutely no damage to me there, so I'm going to spin around and do some damage myself. But as I fire here, I notice the waves are coming up too high, and you've got to be aware of that as well, because if I fired then, it would have gone into the water. And there we go. Now I started doing damage to him, I've got to try and concentrate on that side. So you can manually move your sails around to get some better turns, just to stay on the same side as him. But he will do everything he can to keep his stronger side facing you. But again, I'm pointing my ship directly towards him. to hopefully bounce more shots. You know, always do that when you're fighting. As you can see there, they all bounced off. When you're fighting close to land like this, sometimes the AI gets really confused and just get stuck on the land. They'll sail into it because they think it's the best way to go. But for whatever reason, this guy didn't. And then he didn't turn back towards me, he just carried on down this coast. These low-level AIs do some really odd things. I don't know why, but I chased this guy down here for the next 10 minutes. And eventually he does beach himself like this. And when the enemy do this, it's usually game over for them. You can usually just sit here and just shoot them. And with the bigger ships, you can actually shoot the bottom of their hull and get leaks and sink them really fast. But yeah, somehow he manages to obviously fire back a bit, that's fine. But I stop and I was just going to finish him off here, you know. I can reload faster than him, I'll get him down a bit faster than he can get me down. But then he somehow starts managing to turn. Like I said, these AI do some weird things, and it's not always makes sense. But I carry on shooting a bit. I get his hull down even more. He does spin around some more, and I get a lot more hits on him. And then he managed to get himself into a position where I was finding it hard to actually shoot him, and then magically he got out. And we're going full speed. So yeah, you know, there's still bugs in this game. But then at least the fight is back on now. So he just messes up there, I don't know why he fired. But then it gives me a chance to actually fire back at him and do some more damage. And as you can see, I've been concentrating on the one side as much as possible. And now I just got to do that to finish him off. And I've taken hardly any damage. Because again, I move out now to angle my ship, so if he does manage to fire, you know, he'll have more chance of bouncing. But I did notice this guy was quite a tough cookie, really. And we'll see why later, once I do finally kill him. I've jumped ahead here now towards the end of the fight. As you can see, he's done a bit of damage to my left side now. But I've managed to get his hull quite far down. And I'll just carry on firing here, you know, I don't think he's going to kill me, so I'll keep hitting him. And when you're at this point, it's pointless kicking off the repair, because, you know, he's going to die well before you do. And it's just a waste of money if you do kick off the repairs. Now, I could spin around and get my other side onto him, just to save myself a bit. But again, I'm just going to go broadside to broadside with this guy and just slow him down. Just keep shooting him until he's dead. Now, battles like this can take a long time. I think this one's taken about 30 minutes. He did get stuck for a bit, and he did run away for 10 minutes, but, you know, it gives you the idea. So what most people do now in the game, because of the cost of ammo and gunpowder, is they'll just board other NPCs. So they'll make sure they're in a ship that's got a couple of hundred crew more than the ship they're fighting, and they'll just go straight in, turn him into the wind and board him. And you make a lot more money doing that, but you don't get any XP. So if you need to level up, you need to fight and you need to fire cannonballs. So that gives you an idea. Sometimes it's best to kind of just do some boarding runs just to make some cash. Once you made some cash, you can then do some like proper fights where you can get into the real meat of the game and start sinking ship with your cannons. But of course, with this Basic Lynx, you do not have that choice. So I guess what I can say for new players is you need to concentrate on getting that rank up. Once you've ranked up and you can get a bigger ship, you move on to the bigger ship as soon as possible. Save up and buy one, because you're not really going to board it and take it in a Lynx as much as you might want to. So with this guy, his hull is at a point where he's basically dead. He's now taken on water, he's moving really slow, and he'll eventually stop moving. So at this point I could just sail off and just leave him alone. But I thought, why not? I'll just get one more broadside into him. But of course, that costs money, so it's a choice you've got to make. Yeah, but I would advise against that when you're starting out, because you've got very little money, so you don't want to go wasting it. And then he eventually sinks and you can loot him. And you can also check the stats for his ship. So I'll take his money and his ammo, and then you can just hover over his ship and see. So he was sturdy, teak and oak. That's why he was so tough to kill. And, you know, a lot better than the Basic Lynx. So I made about 10,000 reels fighting that guy. And you got to take that into account. Okay, I used a lot of ammo there. I probably used half of that on ammo at least. So you've got to be careful. So that is the Basic Lynx. It is a terrible, terrible ship. You should only ever use it for basic trade runs and just traveling to different places without the risk of losing a real ship. Because, of course, it's totally free. I mean, hopefully this has given you a kind of idea about what the Basic Lynx is. It's just a starter ship that you want to get out of as soon as possible. Run a couple of missions with it, make some money, get some ammo, and buy another ship once you level up. That is the main thing. I would also recommend that any new players do the tutorials in the game. They'll teach you the basics of sailing, and then the final one will get you fighting 2 ships, and you'll be in quite a large ship, and it'll get you used to kind of sailing the bigger ships with the square sails. Definitely worth doing, and if you complete it, you get a load of free stuff at the end of it as well. Hopefully that's given an idea of what the Basic Lynx is about. Basically, it's a starting ship that you've got to get out of as soon as you can. Thanks for watching, everyone.